I bought Disney tickets for my administrative assistant, LinaBell, and took her there. When my wife Grace found out, she demanded a divorce. I slapped her and told her she was being unreasonable, asking who would want her now if she left me. She suddenly smiled, pulled a document from her bag, and slammed it onto the table. Later, while I was watching fireworks with Tiffany, my wife Grace's call came at an inconvenient time. Tiffany leaned over for a peek, her lips immediately forming a pout. She snatched my phone, whining playfully, "Don't answer it." Seeing her adorable demeanor, my chest tightened. I quickly pulled her into my arms. All right, I'll listen to you. I won't answer." Then, I decisively turned off my phone and tossed it into my pocket. The next morning, I returned home exhausted to find Grace sitting in the living room. Seeing me, she spoke. "Where were you last night?" I tugged at my tie, explaining smoothly. "Oh, Paul called me out for drinks last night. I got really drunk and crashed at his place. Only realized my phone was off this morning." She stared at me, saying nothing. I walked over, trying to appease her. "If you don't believe me, call Paul. He can vouch for me." She silently pulled away from me, her eyes like stagnant water. "Marcus, we've known each other for 10 years and been married for 7. It's too obvious. When you lie, what do you mean? Are you saying I am lying to you?" My face hardened. I stood up and flung my tie onto the floor. "Can't you stop being so high-strung? I am so busy and tired with work every day. I don't have time to coddle you anymore." She silently bent down and picked up the tie, her fingers tracing a corner. A prominent red lipstick stain was on it. I remembered Tiffany passionately kissing my neck in the heat of the moment last night. It must have gotten there then. I quickly regained my composure. "I don't know what happened. Someone must have accidentally brushed against me. Do you believe that yourself?" "Believe it or not, I've already explained. What more do you want from me?" I looked at her impatiently, shouting, "Do you want me to get down on my knees for you, my?" Grace's eyes were rimmed with red, and her voice trembled with a sob. "I just want you to tell me the truth. If you don't love me anymore, you can tell me directly. Stop being so dramatic." I swept a hand across the coffee table, overturning a teacup. The white porcelain shattered on the floor, shards of glass splashing onto her ankle. In moments, a startling crimson seeped out. I frowned and paced impatiently. "How old are you? Still talking about love all the time? I am already exhausted from work every day, and when I come home, I have to deal with your unreasonable demands. I really don't know why I married you in the first place. After we got married, you just lived off me and did nothing, waiting to die, and I had to earn all the money. Do you know how hard I work? Then get a divorce." She seemed to explode, suddenly shouting at me through her tears. I froze for a second, my own mind not even catching up before my palm had already connected with her face. She gasped and fell heavily to the floor. I looked at my stinging palm, but made no move to help her up. "Grace, don't you ever look in the mirror? Who would want a dowdy wife like you if you left me? Even if we divorce, I'll be the one to initiate it. Clean all this up quickly. I am bringing my buddies home for dinner tonight, so make a few more dishes." I looked coldly at her figure crumpled on the floor, left that remark, and turned to leave. I didn't go to the company. Instead, I checked into a hotel room and slept the whole day, only waking up in the evening. I had invited a few buddies for dinner. Grace usually delivered my meals to the office, and they had seen her cooking a few times and were incredibly envious, clamoring to come over and try Grace's cooking. Tiffany also insisted on coming along. "Grace knows me anyway," I sighed helplessly. Little minx, impossible. Grace and Tiffany had met a few times before, usually when Grace came to the company to deliver my lunch. After I came home, Grace had asked me a few times who this young and pretty girl was. I lied to her, saying Tiffany was my good friend's younger sister, fresh out of college and couldn't find a job, so I temporarily hired her as my administrative assistant. The girl was smart, quick-witted, and knew how to play the game, so I kept her close. Grace listened, wanted to say something but held back, and in the end, said nothing at all. When I got home, I knocked on the door for a long time but got no response. I explained to my buddies, "Grace is probably cooking, she must not have heard us." Then I awkwardly pulled out my keys and opened the door. "Honey, Paul and the guys are here." Still no reply. I was a little annoyed. I went inside without taking off my shoes to look for her. Grace is just spoiled by me. She doesn't even come out to greet guests when they arrive. but I searched the entire house and couldn't find Grace. Someone complained, "Marcus, did you tell Grace we were coming? We didn't even eat lunch for this meal." "Marcus, you're not planning on making us eat this cold food, are you?" Following his gaze, I saw a table full of dishes in the living room. They were all my favorite dishes, but without exception, they were all cold. It looked like they were from the night before. My fists clenched in anger, but I managed a smile to reassure them. "Wait, let me call my wife, maybe she went grocery shopping." But I called her more than a dozen times, and she didn't pick up. I started to panic. This woman had gotten bold enough to not answer my calls. "Marcus, if you don't want to treat us to dinner, just say so. You don't have to put on this act with Grace." They started walking out, clearly intending to leave. Even chimed in, "Is mad at us. Is she trying to make things awkward?" "Don't worry, she wouldn't dare. I'll give her a good talking to when she comes back tonight." I forced a smile. "How about this? Let's go out for seafood. What do you say?" I slammed the door shut and drove them to a newly opened seafood hotpot restaurant. "My brother recently started dating a young model, and shares smoking hot," Paul said, pulling out his phone to show us pictures. I leaned closer. The girl in the picture was wearing a bikini, with a sizzling figure and a mixed-race look. Incredibly beautiful. What's a young model? It's really impressive to snag a superstar. Right, Marcus? At the mention of Grace, my anger flared up again. "Don't mention that old woman. She's annoying." They were right. Grace used to be a very famous actress. We met when she was still struggling in obscurity. At that time, I was the owner of a small company, the kind of company where I was the boss, assistant, accountant, and driver, all rolled into one. I met Grace at a film set while I was out on a sales call. It was a hot day, and she was filming a martial arts scene under the blazing sun, her clothes flowing around her, sweat glistening on her forehead. She was beautiful beyond human description, like a goddess who had descended to earth to undergo trials. But even a beauty like her couldn't satisfy the director. The director publicly scolded her, and I couldn't tolerate it. So I went up and argued with him. The director then started yelling at me too, and called security to drag me away. In a fit of rage, I lunged to punch him, but Grace stopped me. She led me away from the set. I knew she wouldn't be able to film that scene anymore. "I am sorry. I really couldn't stand him yelling at you like that." I apologized. Looking down, she pursed her lips and shook her head, offering a strained smile. "It's okay. I'll just find another role." I nodded in agreement. "Right, just find another one. Besides, a film with a director like that isn't worth shooting anyway." But what I didn't know was that Grace only had $200 to her name at the time. Acting was her only way to make money, and that role was one she had worked hard to get. It wasn't an extra or a stunt double. She was the third female lead. If she performed well, she would have received a substantial payment. But she didn't blame me. Instead, she took out $2 to buy me a bottle of mineral water, thanking me for standing up for her. That's how our paths intertwined. Later, we started dating and made a life together in Los. I started my business, and she acted. As my career gradually gained traction, she shot to fame overnight with an online drama, instantly becoming a top-tier actress. She had endless appearances and commercials every day. At that moment, I suddenly felt a gap opening between us. Grace was really beautiful back then. They called her America's sweetheart. I even followed her for a while. Too bad Marcus snagged her, one of my buddies lamented. I lit a cigarette and scoffed. "Oh, please, look at her now. She's not a shadow of her former self. She never wore makeup, was always unkempt, smelled of cooking fumes, and her figure wasn't as toned as it used to be." Thinking of this, I glanced at Tiffany next to me. Her nails were freshly manicured, her hair soft and newly dyed, her eyelashes curled, her lips rosy, and her figure curvaceous. This is how a young girl should look. This is the kind of woman who deserves me. Still, where had Grace gone? I called her so many times, and she didn't answer any of them. Annoyed, I pulled out my phone. The message screen was silent. The WhatsApp chat history was stuck at 7 p.m. last night. She had said, "Husband, I made your favorite dishes. When are you coming home?" I hadn't replied, because at that moment, Tiffany and I were at Disney watching the fireworks show. The more I thought about it, the more irritated I became. I chugged the wine on the table, and ordered the waiter to bring 2 more cases of beer, declaring we wouldn't stop until we dropped. By the end, I was in a hazy stupor, with Tiffany helping to support me. "Boss, why don't you come to my place tonight?" Her lips pressed against my ear, sending a soft tingle down my spine. but I pushed her away. I need to go home, get me a cab. Tiffany stomped her foot playfully. That woman, Grace, isn't home anyway, so why go back? Nonsense, she's home. I clenched my silent phone and hailed a cab myself, fighting back dizziness and nausea. I returned home. During this time, I kept calling Grace. If she knew I was drunk, she would surely make me a hangover remedy, right? She would also take off my shoes and socks, wash them, and then change me into clean pajamas, letting me sleep comfortably. But she still didn't answer. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself sprawled in the entryway. My shoes were still on, my tie was still tied, and there was vomit all over the floor. It was a miracle I hadn't choked on my own vomit, honey. Rubbing my throbbing head, I searched room by room. She still hadn't returned. The house was still exactly as I had left it. Passing the kitchen, I noticed the kitchen waste had been emptied. This meant she had tied it up before she left. She really did listen to me after all. I remembered how I used to scold her when we argued. Even if it wasn't harsh, it would make her tear up. Once, she had stormed out of the house like this in a fit of anger. 2 days later, I went to her best friend's place to find her. She was indeed there. The moment she saw me, she threw herself into my arms, whimpering and asking why it took me so long to pick her up, wondering if I didn't like her anymore. The situation was the same now. She must have run off to hide at her best friend's place, waiting for me to come looking for her. I just needed to leave her alone for a few days. Once she came to her senses, I'd pretend to be anxious, coax her a bit, and she'd obediently come back to me. Thinking this, I felt much more at ease. After a shower and a change of clean clothes, I drove to the company. Tiffany glared at me when she saw me, then turned her head away. I knew she was still angry about last night, so I used work as an excuse to call her into my office. Still mad, I took her wrist. She played hard to get for a moment, then bonelessly collapsed into my arms. Why did you leave me for that woman yesterday? Is she prettier than me? Her pouting lips were adorable, reminding me of how Grace used to flirt with me. She used to act as if the water I poured was tastier, the shrimp I peeled was sweeter, the floor I mopped was cleaner, but she never acted like that anymore. All we had was awkward silence and endless arguments. When did she stop flirting with me? Of course, prettier than her. I took a card from my pocket and handed it to her. Here, spend it, buy whatever you like. I love seeing you dressed up beautifully. Shouldn't women dress themselves up? Always unkempt, smelling of cooking fumes. What man would be interested in that? No wonder men cheat. Tiffany took the card and happily gave me a big kiss on the cheek. Then I'll go have lunch with my gals. I'll use your card. Tilda. She was a girl in her early 20s, full of youthful energy, and she made me feel much younger too. I nodded my assent, and she skipped out. It was lunchtime. My stomach had growled several times before I suddenly realized Grace hadn't sent me lunch. She used to cook meals at home and bring them to me. Because I had stomach issues, I couldn't eat cold food and was very picky. She would prepare different dishes every day, delivering them punctually to my office, rain or shine. Even when we argued before, she would still bring it, then angrily tell me, "You deserve to starve." I thought she'd send it today too. I pulled out my phone and called her again, but still no answer. It seemed she was being quite stubborn this time. I sent a WhatsApp message. "Honey, I was wrong. Please forgive me." If she saw it, she would surely feel bad for me, right? So I deliberately didn't go to the cafeteria, wanting her to see my pathetic state when she came, making her feel even guiltier. But I'd already finished 2 games on my phone, and there was still no activity on WhatsApp. Fuming with anger, I typed, "Fine, you don't love coming home. If he's so tough, then don't ever come back." After all, she married away from home. She only had her best friend in this city. Without me, she wouldn't be able to survive. After sending the WhatsApp message, I grudgingly ordered takeout. To my surprise, the takeout had cilantro in it. I angrily picked out all the cilantro, then chewed on the undercooked, cold food, forcing myself to finish it. As a result, I felt a sharp pain in my stomach that afternoon, so agonizing it made me break out in a cold sweat. I called the administrative assistant's office, but no one answered. Tiffany was out to lunch with her gals, and it was likely she'd skipped work that afternoon. Calling her cell phone also went straight to voicemail. My face pale with pain, I called Grace again, begging her to pick up, but as expected, she still didn't answer. Finally, I passed out from the pain. When I woke up, I found myself in the hospital. Tiffany was beside me. Seeing I was awake, she immediately burst into tears. "Boss, you finally awake? You scared me to death." My head was pounding, my whole body felt numb, and my hand hurt. It turned out Tiffany had pressed on the needle on the back of my hand, my lips twitching. I pushed her away and asked the doctor what was wrong with me. The doctor said, "You have stomach bleeding caused by a gastric ulcer. With your level of gastric ulcer, you must be extremely careful with your diet. You absolutely cannot eat indigestible or cold foods. Doesn't the patient's family know this?" The doctor said, looking meaningfully at Tiffany. Tiffany's face crumpled as she cried, "I am sorry. I didn't know." Her crying made my head hurt even more. "According to your medical records, you haven't had an attack in a long time. You really need to stick to your dietary restrictions." The doctor finished speaking and left. I asked Tiffany, "Where's my wife? Didn't she come to see me?" She scoffed. "No, she didn't." I grew anxious. "Didn't you tell her? Your friend called her." But no one answered, even now. You're still thinking about that woman. You're sick and in the hospital, and she doesn't even care about you. Why are you thinking about her? She's probably off messing around with another man somewhere. Tiffany's sharp voice echoed through the hospital room. Yet, her voice used to be so soft and sweet. "What do you know?" I pushed her away in frustration, then pulled out the IV and walked out of the hospital room. My steps unsteady, I hailed a cab to Grace's best friend's house. 2 days, I was finally going to see my wife. Would she be happy? I decided I would act even more pitiful, and maybe she would even cry. Thinking this, a sense of pride swelled in my heart. This feeling had always been there. Actually, when I stood up for Grace and cursed the director, when I used protecting her as an excuse to forbid her from wearing shorts and skirts, when I used caring for her as an excuse to make her retire from her career and become a stay-at-home wife. This superstar, so sought after by others, still willingly devoted herself to homemaking for me. With these thoughts, I rang the doorbell at her best friend's house. However, when her best friend opened the door, she coldly told me Grace wasn't there. "Are you bullying her again?" Her best friend demanded loudly. "No, we were just arguing like we always do." "Like you always do? How many times has this been?" she snapped. "Marcus, when you had no house and no car, you insisted on marrying Grace. Her family, including me, disagreed. What did you say back then? You said you'd be good to her for the rest of your life. And what happened? Because she couldn't bear children, your whole family constantly ganged up on her, calling her a barren woman. You forced her to retire from her career at its peak to stay home and do your laundry and cook. From then on, whenever something went wrong for you, you'd yell at her for not earning money, and now you're involved with a female colleague, and even forgot your wedding anniversary. You scum don't deserve to be with her." I latched onto the key point, wedding anniversary. It suddenly dawned on me that she had made a table full of dishes that day, waiting for me to come home to celebrate our anniversary, and I had made her wait all night long. "Grace isn't here, you need to leave." Her best friend blocked the doorway, preventing me from entering. But I knew she had to be there. "Let me in, let me apologize properly to her. I truly can't live without her. Honey, I am here to pick you up. Honey." I pushed her best friend aside and rushed into the house, searching room by room, but she really wasn't there. Dejected, I walked out, my mind filled with images of my wife, but her best friend grabbed me. "Don't you dare leave. You just trespassed. I've already called the police. Just wait for them to arrest you." I was taken to the interrogation room, wearing handcuffs. I anxiously told them, "Officers, I am innocent. I just wanted to find my wife. She hasn't come home in 2 days, and she has no family in this city. I suspect she's missing." The 2 officers exchanged glances, then held up a photo and asked, "Is this your wife?" In the photo, she was bright-eyed and radiant, incomparably beautiful. It must have been a picture from her time as an actress. I nodded quickly. "Yes, she used to be a very famous actress. You must all know her. She married me 7 years ago." The officers showed no reaction to my words. "We will investigate your wife's disappearance, but your trespassing is undeniable. According to the law, you will be placed under administrative detention for 15 days. Then, despite my resistance, they took me to the detention center. I tried to find someone to bail me out, so I arranged for someone to contact Paul, but he refused, claiming he was out of town and couldn't make it back. I then placed my hope in Tiffany, but she tearfully told me she didn't meet the bail requirements. Only my wife can bail me out now, I said despairingly. Tiffany, please help me. I thought Tiffany loved me so much that she would definitely help me, but she just fiddled with her newly manicured nails and said nonchalantly, I'll do my best to find her, but if I can't, boss, please don't blame me. Then she disappeared and never came back during those 15 days. Not just her, no one came to see me. I spent those days feeling like an eternity, asking the staff every day if they had found my wife, but they only looked at me strangely, as if I were a clown. 15 days later, I was finally released. I got my phone back and anxiously turned it on. There were missed calls from my parents, and WhatsApp messages from employees and friends, but there was nothing from Grace. I suddenly realized that she seemed to have vanished from my world. I quickly hailed a cab home, hoping to find some trace of her return. But apart from a layer of dust, the room was exactly as I had left it. I sank dejectedly to the floor. It was then that I remembered to call Grace's mother. After being hung up on several times, the call finally went through, and my mother-in-law's impatient voice came through the receiver. Why are you calling? I told her, if she dared to marry you, I'd no longer consider her my daughter, Grace. I was scolded fiercely. From her words, it seemed Grace hadn't returned to her parents' home. I sheepishly hung up the phone. After cleaning myself up, I went to the company. I even had to mentally prepare myself to go. The news that I had spent 15 days in jail spread like wildfire. The company's stock plummeted. I roughly calculated that I had lost at least $1 million in just a few days. I thought that was already bad enough. But then, a colleague from the sales department came to tell me that our rival company had stolen all our target clients. What do you mean? How could they? I pounded the table and roared, in terms of size and reputation, how is our company not superior to theirs in every aspect? How could all the clients have gone to them? My colleague's expression shifted. He said, see for yourself. Then he pushed his phone over. It was a Twitter page, a giant trending tag. The hashtag above it was, Grace returns. The accompanying picture showed her, attending a press conference in a haute couture gown, exquisitely made up. She looked exactly as she did when she was younger, perhaps even more beautiful. Madam is endorsing our rival company. Boss, didn't you know? The question from my employee felt like a bucket of cold water dumped on me. Yes, that was my wife, the closest person to me. She was making a comeback, and I was completely unaware. Without thinking further, I drove to the rival company, filled with fury. They dared to poach clients right under my nose. A crowd of people was swarming around the company entrance, most of them holding cameras. I pushed through the crowd, squeezing to the front amidst angry grumbling. In the center of the crowd, I saw Grace standing there in a white short dress, her slender, long legs exposed, incomparably beautiful. I had once said that, apart from her face, her legs were her most beautiful feature. That's why I never allowed her to wear shorts or short skirts. But now she wasn't listening to me. Thank you so much, Ms. Grace, for this opportunity to collaborate with our company. We are truly honored. We were so sad when Ms. Grace retired from the industry. But thankfully, you've chosen to return. You are truly bringing prestige to the entertainment industry. The rival company's boss was flushed with excitement. Grace smiled politely, returned his thanks, and then it was time for media questions. I stood in front, staring intently at her. She did indeed notice me. I thought she would be surprised, perhaps feel guilty, or that she owed me something, but her gaze simply swept over me indifferently, as if I were a stranger. Grace, you chose to go public with your relationship when you were incredibly popular, and then you retired at the peak of your career. Fans said you were blinded by love. What's the reason for your comeback now? There wasn't a trace of emotion on her face. Before, I cared more about spiritual fulfillment, and didn't focus on myself. Now, I want to live for myself, and do what I want to do. The media reporters all nodded, and this empowering statement once again trended. Is this sudden comeback due to a marriage crisis? A reporter posed a very pointed question. I curled my lips into a smirk, secretly praising this reporter in my heart. As long as we were still married, even if Grace became a superstar again, she would still be tied to me. Legally, she would still be Marcus' wife. But she smiled faintly and announced to everyone, I am currently single. A ripple of astonishment went through the crowd. My own mind exploded with a loud bang. My phone chimed several times. I numbly opened my messages, and found an unread text message from a few days ago, from the courthouse. It turned out that while I was detained, my wife had already initiated forced divorce proceedings against me. After a month-long divorce cooling-off period, we would be forcibly divorced. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, I followed her escort vehicle. When got out, I rushed forward and wrapped my arms around her. "Honey, I finally found you." I greedily inhaled her scent. Suddenly, it felt like we were back when we were first in love. "I missed you so much while you were gone. You don't know how much I suffered. Where were you?" Grace ignored me, frowning as she pushed me away, her beautiful face filled with detachment. "Is there something you need?" I froze for a moment, then coaxed her. "Honey, come home with me. I know I was wrong, Mr. Marcus. I think it's time you changed your address for me." She took a step back, increasing the distance between us. "You should have received the notice from the court. Please come with me in 15 days to sign the divorce papers." I dropped my smile. "Don't make a scene. We can talk about whatever's bothering you when we get home." With that, I reached for her wrist. She dodged my hand. "I've made myself very clear. If you still don't understand, I can have my lawyer speak with you." I scoffed upon hearing this. "So you can afford a lawyer now? You're getting pretty bold, aren't you? You're a superstar again. So you look down on your husband now, and you're in a hurry to distance yourself from me, aren't you?" "Grace, I never realized before that you were such an opportunistic woman. Don't forget, when you were so poor you couldn't afford food, who didn't mind being with you? Who earned money to support you when you weren't working? And who didn't mind your body changing, your face looking worse, and your slovenly appearance smelling of cooking fumes?" She pursed her lips, staring intently at me. I thought that after I finished saying all that, she would reflect on herself, apologize to me, and then obediently come home with me. "If you come back with me now, I can let bygones be bygones. We can go back to how we were before. It's okay if you can't have children, we can adopt one instead." "Enough. Shut up, Marcus," Grace roared. I was perplexed. Haven't I been lenient enough? What more do you want? What exactly are you making a fuss about? I had gone this far purely for the sake of our 10 years together. I had given her enough respect as a wife. You haven't fulfilled your wifely duties. You haven't borne children for our family. You haven't properly done laundry and cooked at home. You've gone out appearing in public, and you've been throwing tantrums and running away. I am not going to hold all that against you, but shouldn't you know when to stop and not push your luck? Now, come home with me. Tell your company tomorrow that you're quitting." I stepped forward and forcefully grabbed her, intending to take her back, but the moment I touched her, someone shoved me. Ethan. I looked at the tall man standing in front of my wife, and remembered who he was. Ethan was my wife's former agent. I heard he had a keen eye for talent, skilled at finding promising individuals among obscure actors to cultivate. My wife was chosen by him, then starred in that online drama and shot to fame overnight. But I didn't believe those rumors. I knew the entertainment industry best. None of it was clean. Why would he, for no reason, let Grace, who had no connections or background, star as the female lead? It was partly for this reason that I decided to make her retire from the industry. I couldn't believe they were still connected. "Grace, is this your ex-husband? I've heard a lot about you, but seeing you in person is something else." Ethan scrutinized me from head to toe, contempt and disdain clear in his eyes. "I told you before, you're good in every way, except for your judgment of people. Remember, not just any trash is worthy of you." Grace smiled faintly. "It won't happen again." "What do you mean? Who are you calling trash?" I clenched my fists and demanded fiercely, but he didn't seem to want to bother with me. "You just mentioned a wife's duties. I don't think there's any clause in Chinese marriage law that requires a wife to bear children, do laundry, or cook. On the contrary, it explicitly states that one cannot cheat, and the cheating party must leave with nothing." "Mr. Marcus, I heard you're an Ivy graduate, a top university graduate, so how can you be so ignorant of the law? Are you saying I cheated?" My lips twitched. Fuming, I said, "You need evidence to speak. I work overtime at the company every day and night. My buddies can all vouch for me. On the other hand, you two are involved. You probably cheated on me a long time ago." Grace's face finally showed anger, but mixed with that anger was a hint of relief. "Marcus, I always thought you had changed, worn down by life and work. Now I realize you've always been this kind of person. Selfish, incompetent, with distorted values. You disgust me. Let me tell you, there is absolutely no possibility between us anymore. With that, she turned to get into the car. It was then that I suddenly realized she was serious. I rushed forward, grabbed her, and knelt down. Honey, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Everything I said just now was said in anger. Please don't take it to heart. Please, will you come home with me? I'll change. I really will change. Please believe me this one time. She stared at me, her scrutinizing gaze making her seem unfamiliar. She had never looked at me like that before. I remembered a man who had murdered his wife and child, then faked an accident, and deliberately cultivated a devoted husband image, but had actually been cheating for years. The way she had looked at that man then was the same way she was looking at me now, filled with disgust. See you in court in 15 days. She left that sentence and then got into the car and drove away. I knelt on the ground, slowly getting up amidst the whispers of onlookers. Tiffany called me a few times, but I didn't answer. When I drove home, I found her standing downstairs, waiting for me. I frowned, softly scolding her, "Are you crazy? How dare you come downstairs to my house?" She smiled ingratiatingly and came over to take my hand. "Grace isn't home anyway, is she? I heard she's making a comeback and has endorsed your rival company. Isn't that clearly going against you and making a fool out of you?" I shook her off and walked into the house. "My business with Grace is none of your concern. I can mind my own business. I just want to know, now that she's making a comeback, are you two getting divorced?" She shyly leaned closer. "Marcus, haven't you disliked that old woman for a long time? This is the perfect opportunity to get a divorce, and there's no way I am getting a divorce." I pushed her away and said, word by word, "I wronged Grace in the past. Now, I just want to seek her forgiveness and live a good life with her." Tiffany seemed shocked by my words. She froze for a while, her expression shifting from disbelief to mockery. Do you think she'll agree to live a good life with you just because you want to? Don't forget, she's a superstar now. How could she possibly look down on ordinary people like us?" Of course, I am not saying anything bad about Marcus. It's just that in the entertainment industry, there are too many people with better conditions. Do you have confidence Grace can remain untainted in that kind of environment? If doesn't mind being cheated on, then disregard what I said. If you feel uneasy about it, why don't you consider me? I am an Ivy graduate, and I have a loss household registration. Both my parents worked in public service. I am much more respectable than an actress like her. Her words reminded me of Grace and Ethan standing together earlier today. Ethan had significant political connections. His parents were in big business, and his family ancestors had some political connections. He was someone who commanded respect in any circle. Based on my male intuition, his intentions toward Grace were far from simple. Maybe they had already. I closed my eyes in agony, forcing myself not to think about it anymore. Tiffany took the opportunity to crawl onto me, unbuttoning my tie and kissing the corner of my mouth. I wanted to refuse, but then I thought, even if I refused, could Grace and I go back to the way we were? So, I loosened my grip, letting Tiffany have her way. Perhaps it was exhaustion. I slept soundly from afternoon until the next morning. In my dream, I saw Grace in her 20s pulling my hand. She was wearing a white dress, pointing at a wedding dress in a shop window, and saying, "Marcus, will you marry me in this wedding dress someday?" Her eyes seemed to hold stars, and I smiled and nodded at her. Suddenly, a shocking crimson stained the pristine white wedding dress, and Grace collapsed into a pool of blood. She reached out to me, terrified. I wanted to grab her, but I couldn't move. Then, someone appeared behind her. The face was obscured by mist. When I could finally see it clearly, I realized it was Grace herself. She was wearing an apron, her long hair disheveled, and she looked at me with a cold expression. "You killed her. It was you." A blood-red mist instantly surrounded me, seeping into my body. I screamed and woke up from the nightmare. "What's wrong?" Tiffany mumbled, rolled over, and continued sleeping. I got up and walked into the study. After a moment of silence, I pulled open an old standing cabinet that hadn't been opened in a long time. Inside lay a faded, yellowed wedding dress. It was the one I bought for Grace when we got married, but it wasn't the one from my dream. Although I had agreed to her at the time, when I saw the staggering price tag, I immediately dismissed that wedding dress in my mind. Later, when preparing for the wedding, I claimed that wedding dress had been sold, and bought her a cheaper one instead. She was visibly disappointed at the time, but only for a moment before her face brightened again, and she smiled and told me, it's okay, as long as I can marry you. It doesn't matter what I wear. Actually, that wedding dress wasn't outrageously expensive. It wasn't even as expensive as a single bag I bought for Tiffany. I took a deep breath and closed the cabinet door. Just then, I heard the sound of a lock turning at the entrance. I followed the sound and was surprised to see Grace standing at the door. She wasn't surprised to see me home, and she calmly raised the storage bag in her hand toward me. "I've come to pack my things." I felt a little flustered. The divorce cooling off period isn't over yet. How about we wait a bit longer? No need, there's really no point. She directly refused me, then lowered her head, intending to change her shoes. But when she saw the black high heels at the door, she stopped. "Hey," she let out a soft laugh, looking up at me with fleeting disappointment in her eyes. "It seems I've interrupted you too." Only then did I realize Tiffany's shoes were still at the door. I was about to make up an excuse when the master bedroom door opened. Tiffany rubbed her sleepy eyes and walked out almost naked, asking, "Where did you go this morning? I can't sleep when you're not there." Seeing at the door, she shrieked and ran back to put on clothes, complaining as she dressed. What kind of person just shows up at someone's house first thing in the morning without a word? So annoying. She looked entirely like the lady of the house. I was flustered, unsure how to explain, and could only push Tiffany back into the room. "Wife, it's not what you think. Her clothes got wet yesterday, and she didn't have a change, so she just..." I couldn't make it up. I didn't even believe it myself. Tiffany returned with one of my shirts, her legs bare, and stood next to me, saying to Grace, "Yes, Grace, it rained yesterday, and my clothes got soaked. Boss took pity on me, and let me stay. Don't be angry. Blame my delicate health. I can't withstand even a little bit of wind and rain." After saying that, she appropriately retched a couple of times. "Excuse me, I don't know what's been wrong these past few days. I just keep wanting to throw up." I didn't know what to say, so I just went along with Tiffany's words. "Yes, wife, I only kept her at home because she was sick yesterday." Grace raised an eyebrow at that, surveyed us both, then glanced at the messy master bedroom. In the end, she said nothing. "You two make yourselves comfortable. After all, Mr. Marcus and I have no relation anymore. Just don't forget, while you're enjoying yourselves, that half of this house still belongs to me." She finished speaking and started to pack her things. Tiffany crossed her arms and sneered, "So what if half of it is yours? Marcus doesn't need your rundown house." "Shut up." I snapped at her. She looked indignant, but obediently closed her mouth. There were still many of Grace's clothes and cosmetics in the master bedroom. She didn't want any of them. "I find them dirty," she said to me with a detached look, smiling. "What do you mean by that?" Tiffany immediately panicked when she heard this and was about to rush forward to argue. "How noble are you? Do you dare say there's nothing suspicious about your smooth return to the entertainment industry this time? Can you, Grace, guarantee completely spotless from head to toe? Who doesn't know how messy that industry is? Who knows how many directors you've slept with?" I clenched my fists and desperately held Tiffany back, but I couldn't stop her mouth. Grace wasn't angered. Instead, she asked me calmly, "Marcus, do you think so too?" I closed my eyes in pain. Seeing me not answer, she chuckled lightly. "I understand. So, you've harbored resentment towards me all along. Since your values align so perfectly, I wish you both a harmonious future, and hope you repeat the same mistakes. May you be infertile and your home be full of children." With that, she turned and left with a flourish. I wanted to chase her, but Tiffany held me back tightly. "Marcus, I won't let you go." Her eyes were red. "You don't want to divorce her, do you?" "But what can I do? I am pregnant." She gently caressed her lower belly. "I found out at the hospital yesterday. I am only 6 weeks along. I originally planned to tell you this surprise in a few days, but to my ears, those words were a bolt from the blue. No, absolutely not. You have to terminate the pregnancy. We can't keep this child." I glared at Tiffany, my eyes wide with fury, and grabbed her hand, intending to take her to the hospital, but she struggled wildly, shouting, "Don't you want a child of your own?" I stopped moving. Grace and I had been married for 7 years with no children because she was unable to conceive. I was a normal man, and of course, I wanted a child of my own. Seeing my hesitation, she came over and hugged me pitifully, her voice choked with sobs. "Marcus, divorce her and marry me, okay? We can be a happy family of 3. I stiffened, closing my eyes in despair. Finally, I reached out and hugged Tiffany back. I drove Tiffany home. She fussed about not leaving, and it took coaxing and persuasion for her to finally go back. After returning home, I went to the bedroom and organized Grace's belongings that she hadn't taken, intending to deliver them to her myself. I thought, I had already wronged her once. I couldn't wrong another woman. While tidying a drawer, I unexpectedly found a folded piece of paper at the very bottom. Puzzled, I opened it and found it was a medical report. It read, moderately differentiated squamous cell carcinoma of the lung, late stage. The diagnosis date on the report was precisely our wedding anniversary. My head exploded, and my heart pounded, and blood rushed to my head. It turned out that Grace had been diagnosed with late-stage cancer on that day. I spent a fortune to get Grace's itinerary, then waited vigilantly by her tour van with a thermos containing herbal medicine that I had painstakingly stewed. This was a folk remedy I sought out in a rural area. Many late-stage lung cancer patients who took this medicine were able to extend their lives. I went every day, just as she used to bring me meals every day. At first, she never acknowledged me or took the food. By the 10th day, she finally looked at me, her expression strange, and asked, "Did you find something out?" I lowered my head and handed her the thermos. I know nothing I say now will get through to you, but I still want to say, you must pay attention to rest, take care of your body, and it's best to wear a mask when you go out. I also wonder if that guy Ethan is taking good care of you. As I spoke, I began to cough, doubling over, getting up early, and staying up late to prepare the medicine every day for the past few days, had worn out my own body. If you feel like you can't hold on, just tell me, I will do everything in my power to give you the best. Wait, Grace interrupted me. I think you might have misunderstood. I didn't hear what she said next, because I suddenly fainted. When I opened my eyes, it was the familiar hospital ceiling again. It was my second time in the hospital in a month. My mood was complicated, but thankfully, this time, Grace was there when I opened my eyes. I glanced at the needle on the back of my hand, and, feeling a bit embarrassed, pulled my hand under the covers, not wanting her to see my vulnerable side. I am fine, just a little tired from staying up late these past few days. I just need to go home and sleep more. There's no need to make such a big fuss, and come to the hospital. As I finished speaking, I tried to sit up and pull out the needle, but just then, I saw Ethan walk in, followed by several doctors. My expression immediately changed. Is a minor illness really enough to trouble Mr. Ethan? Ethan ignored my sarcastic remarks and said to the doctor, "The patient is awake. I think now is the best time to transfer hospitals." The doctor replied, "Actually, our hospital's treatment technology in this area is already top-notch nationally, even globally. Transferring hospitals would only increase the patient's burden." Ethan thought for a moment, then let's follow the patient's wishes. He then turned to look at me. I was confused by all this and seized the opportunity to ask immediately, "What are you talking about? What transfer?" Ethan looked at me, then exchanged a glance with Grace. Finally, Grace moved her lips and said to me with a solemn expression, "Marcus is sick, late-stage lung cancer." It felt like another bolt from the blue. I instantly went numb. What do you mean? Are you saying I have cancer, and it's late stage? Grace nodded. That's impossible. This isn't right. The person who got cancer was clearly me, right? She glanced at Ethan, a hint of helplessness on her lips. When I got the diagnosis, I wanted to hide it from you, and spend my last days with you, but I never imagined you'd cause that whole mess, and even lay your hands on me. So I put the diagnosis in the bedroom drawer, waiting for you to find it yourself. You did find it, but you were so careless as to think it was my diagnosis. She pulled out the crumpled paper, and spread it in front of me. "Marcus, take a good look again, whose name is written on it." My whole body trembled. I snatched the diagnosis and tore it to shreds. I won't look. This isn't real. I don't even smoke. How could I get lung cancer? This is impossible. You're all lying to me. I buried my face in the blanket, and cried until I lost my voice. Who would have known that I, with my perfect vision, could see clearly from a distance that the patient's name on the diagnosis read, Marcus? But what was most laughable was that the first moment I saw the diagnosis, I subconsciously thought that Grace was the one who was sick. I closed my eyes in despair, the word karma flashing through my mind. The doctor told me that if the situation was optimistic, my illness wasn't that serious and that I should eat well, drink well, and keep a good mood, but I knew that, when doctors said that, it usually meant not much time left. Grace made time to visit me every day. We didn't talk. She always stayed for an hour and then left. That day, when she came, she brought a document. Sign it. I looked at the divorce agreement, my throat constricted, and after a long moment, I uttered 3 words, I am sorry. Now, just signing my name left me out of breath. I put my copy on the table, next to the company's bankruptcy documents. It's ironic, Grace, I often wonder, if I hadn't stopped you from becoming a superstar back then, would we still be in this situation? Grace was silent for a while. The rift and animosity between us didn't start with that single conflict. Even if you hadn't stopped me from becoming a superstar, when my work was busier than yours, when I earned more than you, when my social status was higher than yours, you still would have been angry. You loved my appearance, but you loved it only if it was for your eyes alone. You liked having someone devoting herself to homemaking for you, but it had to be a superstar adored by thousands, who gave up everything to do laundry and cook for you. Only then could it satisfy your vanity. You liked the pathetic girl being scolded by the director on set, not the girl who shone brightly and received praise from everyone on set. Do you understand what I mean, Marcus? Deep down, you never wanted me to be better than you. That's why, the moment you saw the diagnosis, you subconsciously thought it was mine. Marcus, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to become a better version of myself. She finished these words calmly, not a single one blaming or scolding me, yet every word cut deep. I was speechless. I would rather she had yelled at me or hit me, letting out all the grievances of these past years, than to see her so calmly and indifferently accuse me of my faults. Oh, Tiffany came today. Remembering the child in her belly, I asked in a hoarse voice, how is she? She's doing well, Grace said. I saw her on the obstetrics floor, and your buddy Paul was with her. I was startled, then gave a self-deprecating laugh. That's good. She'll have company after I am gone. Seeing my expression, Grace hesitated for a moment, then pulled another piece of paper from her bag. Actually, there's something I never told you. After our marriage, during your first physical exam, all my indicators were normal, and you were diagnosed with infertility. She said it plainly, then gently placed the medical report next to my hand and left, and I, recalling all of it, couldn't help but burst into laughter. As I laughed, tears started to fall. Grace's perspective out of the hospital room. I remembered the last time I came to the hospital was to pick up Marcus' test results. He had been staying up late working overtime, often sleeping at the office, and then he fell ill. I felt it was my fault that he worked so hard because of me. So, the moment I saw the diagnosis, I even considered dying with him. The doctor said his condition was deteriorating quickly, and he had at most 6 months left, recommending he rest at home. I cried alone at home all afternoon, not knowing what to do. To marry him, I had nearly broken ties with her parents' home, leaving me with no one to turn to for help. Later, I decided that if he left, I wouldn't live either. That day was precisely our 7th wedding anniversary. I wiped away my tears, hid the diagnosis, and cooked a large table of his favorite dishes, wanting him to be happy in his final days. I sent him a text asking what time he would be home. He didn't reply. Later, he replied with a picture of him in bed with another woman. He was holding the woman, sleeping soundly, and our wedding ring was faintly visible on his ring finger. I knew the woman. She was his administrative assistant, Tiffany, a recent college graduate. My mind went blank the moment I saw the photo, before I could even react. Another picture came through. They were watching fireworks at Disneyland. Disneyland, my childhood dream. After we married, I mentioned wanting to see fireworks at Disneyland more than once, but each time he refused, citing his busy work schedule. I was understanding and never complained. Yet, on our wedding anniversary, he went to Disneyland with another woman, having intimate moments with her. I thought of everything from the past, the cancer diagnosis, and then the fact that he had just slept with someone else. A double shock, both physical and emotional, made me vomit. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I wanted an explanation from him, but all I got was one lie after another, and a slap. I should be grateful that slap finally woke me up completely. After leaving Marcus home, I ran into Ethan at a coffee shop. He looked at me for a few seconds and said, "You look very tired." I looked at my hands, which had become rough from washing clothes and cooking, and suddenly didn't recognize myself. "Grace, your eyes used to have stars in them. Now you seem very unhappy. Is that so?" I guess it had been a long time since I had truly smiled happily. He took me to my old company, and he took me to see the new trainees the company was cultivating. He pointed to the girl with the high ponytail standing center stage, and said to me, "Look at her, she reminds me a lot of you back then." That girl was vibrant and vivacious. I was lost in thought for a couple of seconds, then vaguely asked him, "Can I go back to the past?" He looked at me, "As long as you want to." So, under his grueling training, I basically recovered my debut physique in just 15 days, and my skin became increasingly better with careful care. During these 15 days, there were times when my emotions were out of control. I also silently cried on countless nights, remembering every little thing about Marcus and me, and I also couldn't help but want to press the answer button when he called me, until one day, that girl with the high ponytail told me, "Sister, you've been manipulated. This guy just can't stand to see you doing well." Only then did I realize that everything Marcus had done in the past had a traceable pattern. You considered his pride and silently took the blame for infertility for him, but he never seemed to consider you. At that time, when I found out he had been diagnosed with infertility, my first reaction was that I had to keep it a secret. Marcus was proud and would never accept having such a condition. Moreover, he was so good to me that even if his parents had grievances about me, he would stand by me and protect me. But I never expected him to say to me when his parents called me a barren woman, "My parents' biggest wish in this life is to have a grandson. You shattered their hopes, so them getting angry and scolding you a bit won't make you lose much. Can you just bear with it for me? Can you just bear with it?" That was the sentence he said to me most often during our 7 years of marriage, and I, because of his sweet talk, forgave and indulged him repeatedly. The girl with the high ponytail said, "Sister, I've watched many of your shows. I remember an interview where you said your greatest passion was acting, and becoming an excellent actress was your biggest dream." I chuckled wryly. "Marcus, look, someone I don't even know remembers such minute details about me. But you didn't know, perhaps you did know. But you carelessly trampled my dream underfoot to pave the way for your selfishness." After leaving the hospital, looking at the azure sky, I exhaled with relief as if a great burden had been lifted. Ethan was waiting by the car. Seeing me, he said, "That female-led drama you really liked has cast its lead." The female lead. I curled my lips and asked, "When does filming begin?" "Next week." I got into the car and eagerly opened my tablet to start studying the script he had sent me. He glanced at me and gently reminded me, "Be careful with your eyes." I hummed in acknowledgement and continued reading. He quietly pulled down the sun visor. Later, the drama became a massive hit, and I once again made a name for myself in the entertainment industry, bringing prestige to the entertainment industry. On the day of the celebration party, I received a gift box. My assistant said it was from a fan. I opened the box, and inside lay a wedding dress. Others thought it was a fan's bad taste, and told me to throw it away immediately. I thought about it, then closed the gift box and told my assistant, "Just throw it away." The current me no longer needed such things. Later, I heard that Marcus had passed away. The nurse said he died quietly one afternoon, looking as if he were just sleeping. Before he died, he tricked Tiffany into getting their marriage certificate, claiming that only then could his assets be legitimately transferred to her. Tiffany believed him. After died, she gleefully went to court to apply for inheritance, only to be informed that Marcus' company had already declared bankruptcy and was heavily in debt. He had severed ties with his parents before his death. Tiffany, as Marcus' only direct relative, inherited all his debts, totaling $56 million. Tiffany's parents sold all their assets, but it wasn't enough to repay the debts. Ultimately, Tiffany was sentenced to life imprisonment and sent to prison. "Do you pity them?" Ethan asked me. I looked at the distant sunset and shook my head. "It's just karma. Nothing to pity." The wind in Melbourne was cold, yet it felt refreshing and invigorating. In the past 7 years, I had never for a single second felt as liberated as I did at this moment, and in the future, I will continue to soar, cherishing every second that belongs to me.